morning. We greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on today. Just wanted to open up and give a quick announcement. Feeding the Gulf Coast is doing a large distribution on Friday, the 24th at Hank Aaron Stadium. For more information, you can go to feedthegulfcoast.org, feedingthegulfcoast.org, because there's a form to fill out. So if anyone is in need of food distribution, please go to feedingthegulfcoast.org, and that distribution will be on Friday, April the 24th at Hank Aaron Stadium. Do be mindful of everyone that is on our prayer list: Sister Ethel Turner, Sister Marion Hardy, Sister Mary Lee, Sister Ada Mae Ward, Sister Omega Cook, Sister Mary Howes, Sister Dolores Simmons, Sister Jean Washington, Sister Flora Wilkes, Brother Lawrence Porter, Brother John Ingram, Sister Vera and Brother William Cannon, Sister Lolita Jones. Keep her lifted up in prayer. I got word that she was back in the hospital this week. Reverend Robert G. Rumley, Reverend Clifton Thomas, the Reverend Leonard Jackson, Reverend James E. Green, the Reverend Hattie Husband, who is with us here on today, the Reverend A.T. Days. Do keep Bishop Harry L. Seawright and family lifted up in prayer, as well as presiding elder Johnny M. Bryant lifted up in prayer. And do keep in prayer all of our essential workers, our healthcare workers, those on the front lines who are still working hard to care for our sick and shut. Let us pray. Gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, O God. We praise you, we honor and magnify your holy name, O God, for this day that you have given us, God, this chance that you have given us, Lord, to worship and magnify your holy name. And we just say thank you, God, for the opportunity to serve, the opportunity to worship, the opportunity, oh God, to give you the glory. God, we lift up our sick and shut in to you, oh God. We ask, God, that you continue to be the healer that you are, oh God. That you be glorified, that you be magnified. In the midst of sickness, oh God, we know, God, that we can trust and depend on you, because you are God that does not fail. We ask, oh God, that you continue to be with all of our houses of worship as we continue, oh God, to worship you in spirit and in truth, despite our circumstances. We just thank you on today, God, that you allowed us this chance to be here, God, to fellowship over your word, God. We ask, God, that you hide the preacher behind the cross and let him just be a vessel for your message, oh God. And let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Just for a few moments on today, I'd like for us to turn to John, the 11th chapter, the 43rd and 44th verse. And they read, when he said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. And Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. Just for a few moments today, I'd like to use as a subject, benefits of the resurrection. Benefits of the resurrection. Y'all bear with us as we are outside. It's kind of windy. So the wind is playing tricks with the microphone, but we will continue. Amen. Benefits of the resurrection. Lazarus was one of Jesus Christ's closest friends. In fact, we are told that Jesus loved him. When Lazarus fell ill, his sisters sent a message to Jesus that said, Lord, the one you love is sick. When Jesus heard the news, he waited a couple of days before going to Lazarus' hometown of Bethany. Jesus knew that he would do a great miracle for God's glory, and therefore he was not in a hurry. When he arrived in Bethany, Lazarus had already been dead and in the tomb for 4 days. When Martha discovered that Jesus was on his way, she went out to meet him. And she said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Jesus tells Martha, your brother will rise again. But Martha thought that he was talking about the final resurrection of the dead. Then Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Martha then went and told Mary that Jesus wanted to see her. He had not yet entered the village, most likely trying not to call too much attention to himself. The town of Bethany was not far from Jerusalem, where the Jewish leaders were plotting against Jesus. When Mary met Jesus, she was grieving with much emotion over her brother's death. Those that were there with her were also weeping and mourning. Jesus himself was moved by their grief and his own, and he wept also. He then went to the tomb of Lazarus with Mary and Martha and the rest of the mourners. There he asked them to remove the stone that covered the hillside burial place. Jesus looked up to heaven and prayed to his Father, closing with these words, Lazarus, come out. And when Lazarus had come out of the tomb, Jesus told the people to take off those grave clothes, unwrap him, and let him loose. Jesus has this bad habit of breaking up funerals. If you took the time to search the Gospels, you will find no mention of anybody ever dying around Jesus. As Jesus approaches the city of Nain, he meets a funeral procession. All of the funeral arrangements had been made. The dead man was in his coffin. The pallbearers were leading the procession as they carried the young man out of the town. Behind the casket came his grieving mother. Some of her close friends were with her, escorting her as she wept. And there were no doubt some professional mourners, people who actually were hired to weep and cry over the death of this dear young man. They had all their fine funeral arrangements made, and they were going out to finish the service of burying this young man in the tomb. But Jesus comes along and ruins this perfectly good funeral. Sometime later, Jesus ruined another funeral, the funeral of Jairus' daughter. When Jairus approached Jesus, he simply asked the Lord to come to his house, for he had only one daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. Jesus was momentarily delayed by the woman who was ill with the issue of blood. She touched Jesus and was healed immediately as the power went out from him. But as Jesus was healing this woman, someone from Jairus' house, your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher anymore. But this didn't stop Jesus, because Jesus has a habit of breaking up funerals.